or the
on
week
the
of
Monday,
Ace's birth was a
I
pretty
defended
crazy one
my
because Michelle did.
prospectus.
I forget
And that
what
was kind
it
of
wasn't
the
a thesis
last
defense. It
thing
was
that I
some
needed
sort
to
of,
do before my daughter was
midway through
born.
her,
It was a week before
PhD
her due
or
date.
whatever.
So after that
Big
happened,
presentation.
I just felt
She was
like
very
I couldn't
pregnant.
wait for her to come. And I had a midwife appointment
doing a
on Wednesday. And she did a sweep
labor,
of my membranes to try and
did that.
prepare my body
And so
for
not
birth.
long after that, Michelle did go into labor.
And that worked because I went into labor
quickly
that evening. And the contractions were very manageable, starting in the evening, but picking up throughout the night. In the morning, they were the kind that they describe in the labor classes as being what would happen before active birth. So I called my midwife and we went into the hospital and she said, "You're not dilated." I was really excited for her to come. Everything kind of stayed the same. And I made it through that night, not really sleeping much at all because of the pain. And then the next day was Friday and nothing much changed. So that was 2 nights of not sleeping, 2 days of just and Friday we were
to the hospital
basically at the same stage of dilation. And I went back into the hospital, and the midwife said,
obviously
"You need to just
quite
be
a bit of
patient
discomfort."
So they gave me morphine so I could go home and sleep for a little bit.
It was a really big struggle because it's something you've waited for so long, and you're on the cusp of a new chapter in your life.
That calmed the contractions down a bit for a few hours, but then they came back roaring again in the morning. I was so just emotionally and physically exhausted. I hit a wall.
It was a stressful time.
Called my midwife and I said, "I can't keep going." I went into the hospital.
Ended up going back to the hospital again.
I want to say we got there around 11 o'clock.
I think it had been the third visit, the third time we went, our midwife just being
and she checked me out, no progress. Luckily, I had a very empathetic midwife, and she decided that something did need to happen. She said, "We're going to fudge it a little bit and say you're a little farther along than you are. And I will admit you, and I think that what we need to do is give you an epidural and break your water and give you Pitocin so things get moving." And I realized that part of the problem was that I wasn't actually able to go to the bathroom. I wasn't able to urinate, I guess because of the way the baby was sitting. And as soon as they gave me the epidural and put a catheter in, my bladder was able to release. And I think everyone was like, "Oh." And I was able to relax. There is a picture of me at that point, and I actually look so calm and relaxed. So that's a nice moment to hold on to. And I don't think that period of calm lasted that long.
Whenever I think of Ace's birth, I always think of our first loss.
So all
it was
of those
cold
things
and it was sunny.
Kind of raised the tension. I had a really history of pregnancy loss before that.
Feeling,
Asa was my 5th pregnancy, so
to a certain point,
I wasn't going to feel okay until I was holding her. At one point, they had the monitors on my stomach, and so I had been listening to her heartbeat, and it had stopped. And I really had a lot of flashbacks to losing
stress level up
my previous pregnancies. That moment of losing the heartbeat was a real moment of panic for me. But then they used something else to get an internal heartbeat
also increased the anxiety
by putting some kind of monitor actually on her head inside of me. That got the heartbeat back. I remember everyone saying, you need to rest. And I just couldn't. I just needed to wait to hear that next heartbeat.
I had to run out and get some groceries and just some things that we could
room had this huge window and it was facing west.
And I'll never
I remember seeing the sunset through that window. This
it was
very beautiful purpley magenta sky with
it was an eagle,
little wisps of clouds, just that kind of perfect
sunset. Sign. I think that's what I needed. Our midwife was with us reading heart rates, and
probably almost 11 hours later my midwife
decided to
had transferred our care to
because
an OB
was running a little
because things had
fast, and Michelle
gotten
developed a
so
fever.
complicated.
So we were pretty.
And she said, you know,
worried
she was
again,
going to stay with us
into, like,
regardless.
3 days of labor, and
But it seemed like they were having to call the doctors in so much. Around 11 o'clock,
the OB,
a nurse came in and said,
so we
let's
said, you
just
know, let's
just push and see what happens,
let's
because
just
it
try a
looks like
couple
you're
pushes
fully
just to see
dilated.
where
I
we're
did,
at,
and it's so
see what
strange
happens.
because
And
with the
team kinda
epidural,
came
I
in,
really
and
didn't
Michelle
feel
started. We're just like,
anything.
oh yeah, just
and she said, "You're ready."
Keep going.
She could tell from that one push,
quickly.
like,
It was
"Oh,
almost
you're
like
you're ready."
very
She
unexpected
went and called my
thing of,
midwife,
like, 3
Jess,
days, and
and
now all of a
got the
sudden, like,
doctor in.
things are
But things
happening, and it
went
was
quite quickly.
obviously a lot
And there was a
of
ton of
adrenaline.
people in the
I feel
room.
my heart
It was
rate
just time
rise,
to
and
start pushing. So
Michelle
then
kept
I was
and
pushing,
it honestly
but I
became a
remember
lot, very blurry.
the
at that
doctor
point.
telling me
I
to reach down and feel her
looked at
head.
her, and I just
And that was
cried.
the moment where it became real. I think, especially because I didn't feel
It
anything.
felt like years had been lifted off my
That
chest
was the
in a
moment
way.
when it was
and
real.
I think,
But it was a
Michelle,
very
maybe
strange,
the same.
disembodied feeling to know that it was happening, but not have any sensation of it, not to even feel my own contractions.
Just to help with
the doctor
pushing
said, "Oh,
Asa
what a
through
lovely
Michelle's,
bunch of hair she
cervix.
was," and used some
They
kind of
threw some, like, lubricant on
lubricating
there. They
jelly
lit up
and said
Asa's
she
head,
was
and he gave her a
styling it
little-
into a little mohawk.
little
Which I thought
mohawk,
was
and
funny
the
because my partner
OB
and I
joked
have
about
both
that.
had
"Oh, I'll give
mohawks.
Asa her first hairstyle."
And then it just felt like such a rush, and she was there.
I think one of the doctors was
We
like,
didn't
"Oh, would
know
you like, do you want to
about
tell
gender.
her? Do you want to tell
And
your
we were both
partner
so overcome that
It's a
the
girl.
doctor had to remind
didn't
my
even
partner
look,
to
you know,
tell
didn't even
me
care.
what our baby was. But I
There's
think
a
I always
lot in
knew
a
that her
name.
name
When
was
I think
going to be
of,
Asa,
her
regardless.
name, I
And that
think
just
of
felt
names being
right
tossed
as soon
around
as
with
I
previous
held her.
pregnancies.
I heard an interview with a musician named Bry Webb, and his son is named Asa, so the song is called Asa.
It's a beautiful
His
song.
son
I really like
came
the name,
after
and Brian
loss
described
for
kind of meanings
him and his
where
wife.
cultural meanings.
The song talks
it
about
works for either gender, and that I think is really
this
important
child
to us.
who is a healer and who is
We didn't
hope.
have any other names after we heard that name.
Those first
They
few
put
minutes
Asa on
of
Michelle's
holding her
chest,
and the
watching
baby,
Asa, her first
rooting
cries,
for
and hearing that, and
the breast,
watching
that just
amazing,
happens on its own.
maternal
That's just
response
pure
of
biology.
Michelle's,
And so
and all
in
of a
that
sudden
moment
Michelle
you
was just,
think,
like, so
well, my
calm
body
and,
just did this, just
glowing,
brought this baby into the world. And now it's feeding her. So I just have to trust in it, and it will be okay. The adrenaline is really still pumping, and the exhaustion hasn't set in yet. I also think about the black
little dark
hairs,
haired
the
head,
hairs all over
just
her
like
body,
very
these fine little
tender
black
and
hairs.
warm, and
They
the
were so
softest
strange.
hair, and
They followed the contour of her body
softest
and
breath.
like
It was,
whirls and
yeah,
areas,
I remember
and
those.
stroking that little back with
I
all those
honestly
little
don't-
hairs
couldn't
on
tell
it.
you what we
She was
So
born
it took place
Saturday.
over the
Saturday
week of May 12th,
at
obviously.
11:47.
So it was born the
Mother's
day
Day was
before
the next day.
Mother's Day.
So she
Tuesday?
came 15 minutes before Mother's Day.
Or no, Saturday, because usually the Sunday is the Mother's Day. So it was a Saturday. It's the Wednesday that Michelle went into labor. Time sort of slowed down and then sped rapidly up. And then it was all just a blur.